Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do a complete beginner's guide to Timberborn, shall we? Timberborn is a fantastic building management game that I've been playing a ton of, and I'd like to create a guide to help you get started in this game. It's going to be up to date for update 7, zip lines, and tubeways, and if need be, I'll update it further as the game continues to evolve. This is a game that has similarities to survival builders like Banished, perhaps, but it's got a lot of its own internal machinations that make it a little bit different. The water management, for example, the pathing system, and I'm going to start a brand new game in this guide so that you can play along or follow along and see if this is the kind of game you want to play, or just learn how to play with me. And I'm going to do this in such a way so that if you've never played Timberborn or even a builder before, you'll understand what's going on, what the big goalposts are, so that you can be successful. Now, there's a lot of nuance with this, incredibly complex game. Once you get further into it, there's more technology, there's fluid dynamics and things, but we're just going to focus here on the basics, and I'm not going to tell you the fastest way to do things, the quickest and most optimal build strategy, but rather I'm going to tell you what I have learned along the way and what I've learned from others on stream, and I'm going to explain the controls, the UI, and some basic strategies to get you started so you can enjoy Timberborn on your own and make the beaver colony that you would like to make. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and get started with a new game. And when you begin a game of Timberborn, you can choose your faction between either the Folktales or the Iron Teeth, but as a new player, you'll only have access to the Folktales until you reach a certain benchmark, and then you unlock the Iron Teeth for later. Now, the Folktales are easygoing but hardworking. They're expert farmers. They respect nature, and it rewards them with plentiful bounties. So they have some more eco-friendly stuff. They get a better farm, windmills, and things like that. And this is, an optimal way to begin, which is why they only let you choose the Folktales at first. Then, we're going to play on this official map right here called Lakes, because it's beginner-friendly. It is, there's a good amount of water, there's a good green space. You could choose plains or the smaller waterfalls if you like, but we're going to go ahead and do lakes together because it is a nice beginner-friendly map. And from there, you can choose your game mode, and we're going to do this guide on normal mode. It's going to show us, what the game is about. Not too easy, but not too difficult. And we're not going to even customize anything about the game because this is our first try. So we get to name our settlement as we begin, and let's just call this Incomp Tutorial Town. Okay. And here we are. And I'm going to go ahead and just push spacebar to pause the game while we take in the UI and read some of the guidance the game provides us with as we start. Welcome. This tutorial will help you with all the basics of building a beaver settlement. And actually, one of the main reasons I decided to make a beginner's guide for this game is, number one, it's complicated and it's fun, but I felt like the tutorial was pretty helpful but left a lot of gaps that I was unsure about, and I hope to smooth the experience out for you. Every new settlement needs logs. Only lumberjacks will cut trees, so place 2 lumberjack flags next to nearby trees. So they want us to put down lumberjack flags. Now, we can move the camera using WASD, or you can push in the middle mouse button and drag it around. You can rotate the camera, the pitch, and the angle by holding right click and dragging that around. And It is important to observe that on the bottom of the screen, there are all these buttons running along the ribbon that kind of deal with particular structures or actions that we can take. And icons generally make sense for these things, and you'll learn them over time. But right now it's flashing here on the wood icon, which is going to be all of the things that we can build related to logs and lumber. And the first one here on the left of this sub-ribbon that opens up above the ribbon in the bottom center of the screen is the lumberjack flag. And this takes no resources to build, just some labor, and it employs a lumberjack that cuts trees. So if we click on this and we start to move it around, you'll notice that, first of all, if the blueprint for this lumberjack flag is green, but if I move our flag somewhere that's too far away, it'll turn yellow, and we'll get this message in the center that says it's too far from the district and can't be reached. So we need to build paths or a new district. So there's no way for our beavers to get here, which is why it is yellow. Now, if I move this closer, you'll see it's green, which is good, but then you see this kind of like teal border outline that's appearing on the Z level or the height level that our district is, as well as the level above it. And there is this little staircase that's kind of cut into the stone here, the cliff, so that our beavers can just climb up this and get to this next level. So if we were to build this flag here, for example, they would get to all the trees, and if I can zoom out with the mouse wheel, they would get to all the trees in this area. But we want to put this in a place where all the trees that are currently visible on our screen can be accessed. So there's some trees down here, there's some dead trees up here, and then there's a bunch of trees up on this kind of platform. And what I'm going to do is put the logging flag way up here. I can actually move this over a little bit if I wanted. This looks pretty good. And if we put our lumberjack flag here, that means that the lumberjack can reach all of the trees up on this shelf. And you can push R to rotate it. The arrow on the lumberjack flag, and I'm just going to zoom in at this point, shows you where the path will connect to the workspace and where the beaver will enter. And right now, this is yellow. It's saying it's too far away, but that is okay because we are going to connect this area with a path. So I'm going to drop this in here like so. And once we have clicked this in, you'll see a little ghosted blueprint appears, meaning like this structure is ready to be built. And again, it takes no resources, just some time. And we need to build two. So let's build them right next to each other like this. And once you do that, you complete this leg of the tutorial. So we're going to click continue. And it says the flags will not be built unless they're in the district's building range. So we can select our district. And let me right click to cancel building another lumberjack flag, and then just click on the wood again, or right click to close that submenu. And then here you can see our building range is really small. This is the square that is, denoting where our building range is based on our district. This isn't big enough, so we need to build paths to get up to this point. By the way, here is a tip I want you to start with and do right away. I find this to be useful. Let's say find a good camera angle for your town center, your district. And I think that this is pretty good. I like looking at it just like so. Push Control V. This will save the camera so that if you venture off and you're like exploring someplace else on the map and you're like, oh wow, look at these ruins over here, and then you lose where your settlement is, you can just push V to jump right back to where you have saved the camera location. So it's a nice way to get a shortcut back if you're trying to explore as you move. Now, here is our population of beavers, and if you zoom in, by the way, you can zoom in really extensively in this game, which is awesome. You'll see that there are some children, and then there are some adults, and they're pretty obvious based on their size, but you can also click on your beavers and see some stats about them. It opens up a tooltip window on the right side of your screen, and for example, an Alry right here is only 2. They're a kid. And this is, as you kind of move down their character panel here, you could see all of their needs and if they're being met. And if they are in green. And if they're not, they are in red, and they kind of vary in terms of orders of magnitude. And they're upset right now because they don't have any place to sleep. We have no houses, but we'll worry about that in a moment. You can also see their nutrition, the kind of happiness or well-being points they get from eating a nice wide variety of foods as their diet, bonuses they get for social life, aesthetics, things that inspire awe, fun, books to read, etc. And they're all just chilling right here because there's no real jobs for them to do yet. I think it's easiest for me to kind of explain the UI briefly now, and then in more detail when we get further into the game. So as you look let's just talk about the top of the UI, the elements that run across the screen on the top from the left to the right. So you could see here in the upper left, you could click this button to manage your settlement, and this will give you a bigger view of your whole population. And this number that's in green, that's a 0, is kind of like everybody's well-being currently, and their working speed, their movement speed, their life expectancy, and what jobs they have. 2 of our beavers actually work at the district center, and beavers that work at the district center are builders, so they're going to build the blueprints that we lay down. And it divides this screen into adults and children. Over time, the children will grow and they will join the workforce proper as adults, and we can grow our population by, promoting reproduction, building lots of houses for people to fill into. And we're not going to go too deeply into this at the moment. I just want to show you that. And then here you could see this green number is kind of like our average or global well-being for all of our beavers. And you can just get a breakdown of why things are, like the beavers are happy or why they're unhappy. And this will clue you in on what you need to build to satisfy their needs. This is our science, or kind of like our research points. As we do research, we spend these science or technology points to unlock new structures, blueprints, things to do. This is our material storage, our ingredient storage, our food storage, logs, and water. Of course, we're going to need to, provide food and water. That's incredibly important for all of our beavers, and we start with 130 berries that they can eat. And as long as the game is paused, we don't have to worry about any of these concerns. And it will be plenty of time for us to get ourselves some water and things as we go. Below this top ribbon in the upper left, we've got another breakdown of 8 adults, 4 children. And then these 2 boxes show you kind of like how many beds are occupied in your houses, how many people are homeless, how many people are... I say people, by the way, all the time in games like this, even though these are beavers. I apologize. It's just a generic term. In games where you're an ant, where you're a robot, I just say people, so I apologize in advance. And this is how many of our population are unemployed and how many are workers. I like to keep an eye on this all the time just to make sure everybody has a job to do, for example, to the best of your ability. Then in the upper right, you're going to see that there is a way for us to have a global view of our different districts, and we can use this to kind of jump to our districts as well, if we don't want to set a camera bind. And right now we only have one district, so, not many other things to jump to. Cycle 1 and day 1, so it's kind of like the season and day, the weather, the game speed, which is paused with spacebar, but we can speed this up using 1, 2, and 3. The workday, it is a 16-hour workday for these beavers. We put them to work. And then you can also change the Z level of the map that are shown if you want to kind of remove layers and dig down and see what might be beneath the surface of some of these, hills and things like that. And then there are some other views that we can change, storage overlay, for example. And then running along the bottom, as we talked about, are the different buttons for either orders to give our beavers or things for us to build. And right now, what we need to do is build some paths. So the paths are right here, and it looks like a kind of dashed S, and we click on the Path and Structure button, and it opens up a sub-menu above here that gives us all sorts of things we can make, like stairs and platforms. But you'll notice most of these have locks on them. The lock icon means we don't have the technology researched to build this yet, and so we need to spend science points to unlock, for example, wooden stairs, which we don't have. Now, the path is free. You can build a path freely. It builds instantly, whereas the stairs, if you look below the tooltip box that says wooden stairs and how much science, 70 points, it needs to unlock it. In the green box, it tells you what supplies it needs. So it needs a log and 4 planks, for example, to build one set of stairs. So if I click pathing, now you'll notice, and I'm going to zoom in here, that my mouse cursor has this little path on it, and it's a green square. And if I need to click it somewhere to connect to our district, and when I connect to a place where the beavers can actually go, you'll see a green line appear on it. So this doorway to our district, and you can rotate the camera using Q and E. There's only one doorway to the district center. It's in the front here. You click here, and I'm just going to hold left mouse. I'm going to drag this path out to about here, and you'll notice now there is a green line that appears, and this is where the beavers can go. For the most part in this game, the beavers can only go along the path. They can leave the path to do things like cut trees, but it needs to be close to the path. So you want to connect all workstations to the path. Every building needs to be connected to a path, or for the most part, or will not work. So that's something I had to get my head around, because a lot of the times roads just make your population go faster when they're traveling, but they're not absolutely necessary. In this game, they are necessary. So we're going to build it, and you see how when I connect it to the steps here, the line goes up, and I'm just going to build it there, and then I'm going to continue this by clicking at the top of the steps, and we're just going to kind of go through here. Now, I can't go through the trees, so I'm going to build around them, like so. And then I'm going to connect this and this like that. And you see how if I mouse over the path, or I want to build another one, you can see where they can go, and they can now get here. And if I push spacebar to unpause the game, on the right click to stop building a path, and right click again to close the submenu, these beavers are going up there to build the lumberjack flags. Now, if I wanted to have more builders at the moment, I could click on the district center, and when you click on a building, it opens up its own tooltip panel box, and this one is again on the right. And we have some options here. We can rename the district. We can migrate our population to another area, another district if we want. That's for later. Here's our goods that we started with. We've got these berries, and you could change the priority level of this workplace if you want to really emphasize the task that's associated with that building. But you'll notice how at the bottom it says workers 2 of 2, and you could see Venjo and Zunabar are kind of working here. But if I click this plus button, I can actually assign 2 more workers to be builders. And if I push the spacebar, these jobs will now get filled, and Vonjai and Aknot become builders. They take this job, and they are going to do what they can to help out in our endeavor. And if you want to reduce that, you can just kind of go down and down again, and then remove those workers that we just promoted. So you could change your workforce on the building there, and the number of workers that can be assigned to a workstation are shown with these empty boxes or filled boxes. Some places can only take one. For example, these flags right here can only take one worker, but it's nice. I like to have 4 builders. However, we only have 8 adults right now because we just started. So I'm not going to go crazy allocating my workers. I'm going to kind of use them for the structures the tutorial wants us to build, and then we can reassess our labor distribution. So we've completed this part of the tutorial. I'm going to click continue, and it says now every building with an entrance must be connected to a district center by a path, which we've done. Build paths to connect the lumberjack flag to the district center. You can select the district center to see its range along paths. Now, you'll notice, now when I select the district center, do you see, because I've built the path up here, the buildable range has increased. And it's not just once we get outside of this initial square that we start with that radiates out of the district center, it's not limited to just the path. It goes quite a ways away from the path. And it is generally, though, limited by significant changes in elevation. So we do get to go up because the path goes up. But you see, this cliff face is not letting us get up here. And that's because the beavers can't climb up that wall. They can't get there. And it doesn't go into the water either. But we have a much larger buildable range. And now if I were to build something over here, even though there isn't a path connected to it, the beavers could get there and build it. However, if it's a workstation I want a beaver to work at, if there's no path connecting it, no one will ever work at it. And the game will tell you that with an icon that floats above the workstation. Now you'll see this workstation is complaining. The beaver's like, hey, with the question mark. This kind of little indicator has appeared that's saying, I don't know what you want me to do. There's no job. So yes, we have lumberjacks, but we haven't designated any specific trees within the range of this lumberjack flag to be cut. So that's our next job. So we're going to click continue, and it says lumberjacks will not start working until you tell them what to do. Use the cut trees tool to mark an area for cutting. Hold the mouse button to select multiple tiles at once. A lumberjack flag only cuts trees within its range. You can check it by selecting a flag. So remember, when we were building these lumberjack flags, it also shows you the range, and that's why we put them where we did, because they can get every tree on the shelf that's currently grown. So we need to go to the second button from the left that looks like, well, a tree that's been chewed by a beaver, and we select cut trees, and then this, I do this all the time. I think I'm going to cut trees, but no, there's 2 things here that appear. There's the mark tree cutting area in this submenu, and then there's the unmarked tree if you want to turn off some trees. So I'm going to click this, and now you see my mouse cursor has changed to this icon, and I'm actually going to select just about everything up here. You see these red boxes that are appearing, and I'm just going to drag this with holding left mouse to and let go, and now everything up here is a tree cutting area. So our lumberjacks will cut all of these trees that are up here. Now I can select the second option and drag over here and turn these off if I want. But no, I want to, make sure I'm cutting all of these. And then you can go in, you can even just click, square by square if you want. An important thing to note, and this always messes me up, I'm used to just dragging and drawing a window like I'm making a window on my desktop or something like that. But if you start in an elevation and start dragging, you'll notice that the area I'm selecting does not change with the elevation. So you have to kind of bind this and do this tier by tier. So don't start up here because it won't let you drag off of that. But if you start on the Z level that you want to work, then everything on that level will be selected and nothing above or below it will. All right, we've done this, and now it's time to get somebody to drink. So it says beavers need water. To survive, build a water pump to ensure a continuous source of drinking water. Remember to connect it to a district center. So here's something that's really important. I asked this question on stream because I like to ask questions and get clarity. There is a big river that's running right here, but the beavers won't just walk over here and drink. You have to pump the water for them and put it in a container for them to drink. Maybe if they're like about to die, they will come drink this, but I'm not even sure if they will do that. You might have to even have a path and staircase that goes down for them to do that, but I haven't seen that myself in my own experience. If you can verify that as an expert Timberborn player, that would be great. But I'm pretty sure you need these pumps for them to drink, at least before they get on like death's door. So click the water drop, then click the only available build option here, the basic water pump. And you can see here it says pumps and filters water for beavers to drink. Bad water contamination slows down its pumping speed. So bad water is something that we don't have to worry about right now, but it will be something later in the game that will be a hazard that we have to mitigate or completely prevent. And right now, though, we don't need to worry about it. And our maximum depth for this water pump is 2, and it's water dependent, which means it requires access to water. And you see that every third of an hour, it pumps 1 unit of water, and it takes 12 logs to build this. So I'm going to select it. And you see how it's red, can't build it there. And I can't build it here. Why not? Because it needs to be rotated correctly. So it needs to have the arrow. The green arrow is, remember, where a path needs to connect and where the beavers will go in. And then the pump portion needs to be in the water because it's going to reach down into the water and pump up the water for collection. So you could build this wherever you like, but it along the riverbank, but your beavers need to be able to get to it. Now, I don't want to build it over these berry bushes. I don't want to destroy those. So I'm just going to kind of build it like right here, like so. I've ghosted it in, but we know that I'm going to need to connect a path to this. So I'm going to just build this path here, and then let me see about this. This berry bush gets in the way, but that's okay. I'm just going to kind of go around it like so. And then we can kind of come back this way and build there. And now that the green line has connected, you see that the beavers can actually get there to build it. I'm going to unpause the game and I'm going to close these up. If you want to speed it up, you can just push 2 and watch the beavers go, go, go. You can push 3 to really speed it up. And let's just take a look up here and see what's happening. I'm going to pause because I love looking at this game. Look at this. The beavers are, in fact, chewing the trees, cutting them down. So they're working. You can click to see which workers are here. Now, this is an important thing. It depends on what game you're coming from, if you've played other builders. But if I click on, this worker right here, Vanjai, for example, they work at the lumberjack flag, which is great. But you'll notice how, if I scroll on this character sheet, there is nothing about their skills. In this game, kind of like in Banished, at least if memory serves, there are no skills. Like sometimes in like RimWorld or other builders, people get skills by doing a task for a long time, and they want to be doing that job because they're learning how to do it. In this game, you can promote, fire, change your workforce around freely without real concern for their skill level. So don't worry about which beaver goes to which job. You can, of course, try and really deliberately assign them, but it's not necessary because they all do labor the same way for now. All right, and you see these guys finished, and they have these logs that they're carrying. We don't have any storage yet for them, and we'll get that. So they're like, okay, well, I did this, and I need to go drop these off, and then they're going to just put them... Wait, where are they going? Well, they're going to build. So this lumberjack flag can hold 20 and this can hold 20. And our builders actually went up, and if I can select, here we go. This is Zunabar. This is not a lumberjack trying to store their own logs. They might do that later once this gets filled, or they might stop. But for now, these are our builders who went to go get the supplies they need to build this water pump, and they're carrying it along the path to go do that. And now they're putting in the labor, and they need 8 more logs to finish this up. So I'm going to speed it up. I'm going to push 3 to kind of expedite this process, because it's going to take a while for them to get all the way over here. And you could see there is a night and day cycle in this game. And our beavers are probably going to be unhappy because, you know. Now, remember, we have a work schedule, 16 hours. They're not doing anything. They're not working because we're outside of their work schedule. So they're like, hey, it's break time. Unfortunately, we have no houses. And that's true. Now, you could do this in different order if you wanted. You could start building houses right away. I'm just following along with the tutorial. And even though they're unhappy that they have no shelter, and you can actually see that their needs are depleting because we haven't provided them yet with water or a place to really adequately sleep. So this is not great, but we're going to fix all of this. And there they go. So they'll sleep. They just won't get a great sleep. And you can see, you see how they're sleeping? This guy's just sleeping on the path. Their need bar is like filling up, but then their thirst and their hunger is depleting because, well, they're hungry. And then they're going to eat immediately. You see them all go into the district, and they're probably getting these berries. Yep, we're down to 110. And they fed themselves, and now they're going to go back to the business of finishing this up. We need to get them a drink. Excellent. So we built the water pump. And what we want to do now is start storing this water for them. In addition to water, beavers also need food, which we have. Build a gathering flag near some blueberry bushes. So the thing is, the berries are going to run out if we don't get more, but you can see if I zoom in, it's really obvious. There's all these blueberry bushes, and you can click on these and get some information about them. It says they have 9 days of drought resistance, and droughts are a very real thing in this game. And one of the coolest things about Timberborn, which is that through the cycles, we're going to see the water levels rise and fall with droughts, and we're going to have to manage droughts just like beavers do in nature, and it's a big part of the game, making sure we have enough food and water to survive the droughts, and making sure that we can manage the way that water operates in our space to keep our crops cultivated and things. And this takes 12 days to grow, and every 12 days it's going to produce 3 berries. So these are great for providing us with some easy food. So click on the food tab, and there's a gathering flag here, and just, you know, most of these flags, they don't take any materials, it just requires some labor. And I'm just going to put this right here. Remember, it's same thing as the lumberjack flag. You could see the teal border, which is kind of like our area of reach for this flag, and every blueberry on this shelf will be accessed by just putting this right here. So I am going to do that. And you see our builders will come over and finish that up. And we say continue. And then right now, a worker has already started going and is going to immediately start gathering some berries. A settlement needs a stable food source. Build a farmhouse to plant and harvest crops. If you are running low on workers, you can pause some buildings. To do so, select a building and click the pause button. Like many other buildings, a farmhouse has a limited range. So you'll notice we've been talking about these tooltip boxes, and at the top of them, in the top center, there is a play button, which they default to, but you can pause them, and you'll notice that the worker has gone, and this big pause button appears above it. But if I push play, then a worker will come back. Now, it's paused, so it's going to give me this icon that it's vacant, but somebody will fill this really quickly for us. And pausing is something you'll need to do quite frequently as you manage the ebbs and flows of the environment. For example, you look at this. You see all of these stumps? These are all the trees that have already been cut down by our lumberjack beavers. And If they chop down all the trees, well, then there's no reason to have lumberjacks up here because there's nothing for them to do. So you can pause buildings when it's out of season or your demands change. Now I'm going to click the food button, and this second button from the left is the efficient farmhouse. And this also has an area of influence, an area of work, but what you really want to pay attention to is that your crops are only going to thrive on the area that's green, the area with grass. Like this kind of cracked and parched land is not good for a farmhouse. However, one thing that we want to keep in mind as we're building, we'd like to minimize how many structures we put on the grass because it's so valuable to us to have fertile soil that we can plant trees or plant food upon. So I'm actually going to build this farmhouse. Let me put it here. And I'm going to put it here because it doesn't actually touch very much green space. And I'm going to connect this like so. And this gives us more and more grass. In fact, if I wanted to, I could click on Demolish Buildings and Resources, the button that looks like a house getting smashed by a hammer, and I can say Demolish Buildings, and I can drag it over this path that I built, and it says, are you sure you want to demolish the buildings? You won't be able to undo it. And I could say yes, and let's say, you know what, the path went over the green space. Maybe I want to move this back. I could click on this, and it says, are you sure you won't be able to undo it? Yes. While it's a gray blueprint, or a ghost like that, it hasn't actually taken any resources, so you don't lose anything by altering where you want to put it. So if instead you say, you know what, I might actually like building this even further back so that the path doesn't go on any of my green space. Now it's true I'm going to lose out on some space here, but that is okay. We can just use that for trees. So instead, I'm going to push this back to here. And then I'm going to put a path that goes just right like so. And there we go. And the builders will come get this. And you know what? Let's go ahead and put 4 builders on, and we'll peel them off once we don't need them. And there they go. Everybody's helping. That means all of our builders, you could see they're all getting logs to come and build this. And it'll go faster because we have more. You see that water drop icon? That means they're thirsty. And right now, they can only get water by going into the water pump and drinking from its internal storage, which is not very much. It hasn't had time to really build up. And we didn't finish the barn this day, but that's okay. Excellent. And everybody's going to get a drink from the little water that's available. And okay, here we go. So the farmhouse is done, but it says there's nothing for them to do. We only have 1 worker there currently. So I'm going to say continue, and it says farmers will not start working until you tell them what and where to plant. Use the plant crops tool to mark a carrot field. Crops will need to be planted on irrigated land, which is the green land, and otherwise they will dry out and eventually die. So I'm going to click on not the food button, but the 3rd button from the left, plant crops. And they want us to plant carrots, and that's fine. So it says every 4 days we get 3 carrots. So this is going to be a great food source for us. I'm going to plant a nice field here, and they want us to plant 100 carrots, which is, you know, a sizable amount. So let's get ourselves a nice 10 by 10 field like that. And then there we go. And they'll do that. Continue. While all the buildings you placed have some storage, they will fill up quickly. Build additional stockpiles for logs and water. Each storage building can only hold one type of resource. You can set it after selecting the building. This is true for the whole game for all storage types, which is that you build dedicated storage for particular resources. So we need to build a large pile for our logs, and these 3 boxes, this button is the storage button, and the second from the left is the large pile. And remember, we're going to build on this cracked land. Even though the logs are up here, we could put the storage up here if we wanted. I'm going to put it right here, close to this, but closer to other buildings and on the non-irrigated soil, like so. And then you can actually, even before it's built, designate what resource goes here. So you click on it, and in this question mark box at the bottom, we're going to click logs. And we've set this to logs. It can store 180 logs. That's the only thing that they'll take. Then we need to build a small tank, or 3 of them. So the small tank is this one right here, and it holds liquids. And I'm going to, again, put this on the cracked area. I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. And we can watch all of our friends working. Now you'll notice here that there are 2 vacancies for farmers. And I think what I'm going to do is actually go back down, now that I have more labor, to 2 builders, because I want carrots and food more than I need stuff to get built. Food is our priority. And now that we're also storing resources, look at the top center ribbon. You can see all of our water is stored. We're actually at negative well-being, and this is because people are thirsty and they don't have a place to sleep. So we'll fix that soon enough. And these bars show you how much is stored versus how much storage capacity you have for them. So we really can't store any more berries, and we can't store any more water. That's why we're building storage as we go. Now they could satisfy their thirst by going to get something to drink. And here we go. No goods selected. So if you actually finish building it before you designate a resource type, it'll say, I can't store anything. Click on this, click water, and remember we can preemptively set these to water as well. There we go. Now, they will come here to drink instead of running all the way over to the water pump. You want to try to place things efficiently. You don't have to worry too much about it and lose sleep. If you are a very specific, person, then of course you can, try to optimize. But I just kind of eyeball stuff myself for the most part. And, you could put them over here so that there's less travel time for the water pump person. But then all the people who need to drink have to walk further. So it's a kind of balancing act. I just like to make sure that I'm maximizing how much irrigated soil I have access to and doing as much building on the cracked earth. And we're at 3 out of 3. Good. Deet, deet, deet. There you go. Build, build, build. So the whole carrot field is now planted, actually. And you can see, if I click on this, these are all growing. Now, this is a lot of carrots. And you don't really need this many. You need a lot of food, but this is a lot of a singular type of food. And if you remember looking at the well-being and the nutrition, they will get a benefit if they have access to different food. So one thing we can do is just go into plant crops, and let's go ahead and plant some potatoes, shall we? I'm going to plant a bunch of potatoes right over here. Now, I don't want to spoil anything. It's not a huge deal. I will say, even though it's green, there is some merit to not building too close to the coast or to the shore of this river. So if you leave some space, it doesn't matter now, but perhaps later that will be an issue. Right now, I'm just going to build stuff. You can always remove it. Excellent. Let's get some taters in. There we go. And we can also get in some sunflowers. Now, it is worth mentioning, one of the reasons they tell you to plant carrots is because you don't have to prepare them. So they can just eat carrots without any preparation. Taters are great, but we're not going to be able to eat them until we build a grill. So just understand that that's more of a long-term investment. And I'm going to put some sunflowers in up here as well. You can visually see how much water we have stored. And how many logs we have stored, for example. And our well-being is back to normal because they're getting enough to drink. But it's hard for our pump to keep up. A rule of thumb that I learned on stream, it seems pretty reasonable, is for every 10 population, you want a water pump. So, we have 12, so we're kind of pushing one, but it's not desperate. Okay, let's continue. And now, we want to prepare berries and carrots for the upcoming harvest, so we could store these. So we're going to go here. And what we need to build are medium warehouses, and it's this button right here. I'm going to build these medium warehouses, well, you guessed it. Right there, on the cracked earth. Get these in. And they do have some water here. These are all planted. This looks good. And now they're even starting to cut trees from over here. Nighttime, so no work. I'm also playing at the fastest game speed. You don't have to do that. When I played the tutorial the first time, I played at a slower speed just to make sure I knew what I was doing. And again, remember, we want this one. We have to assign them. This is going to be berries, and this is going to be carrots. Now, we probably want to build another one for taters and another one for sunflowers as well. But let's just keep following the tutorial for the moment. We have 2 unemployed. Warehouses don't take beavers to work at. So we could go ahead and give the 2 people who are unemployed the opportunity to become builders. I checked that over here, by the way, remember, in the upper left. And there they go. And now we want to build an inventor. Science points are used to unlock more advanced buildings. So we definitely want some science points coming in. So we click the atom button here and we build the inventor. And again, I'm just going to drop them in along the path so that they're connected, and you could tell by the arrow along the path there, like so. And we need it connected to the path so that they could get there, and they will immediately just run and build this up for us. And there they go. Good job. So the reason we have 12 workers is because all of the children that started with us have grown up. And now we need to build houses, finally. It says homes increase your beaver's well-being and allow your Folktales population to grow. Similar to Banished and other builders of this type, you cannot grow unless you have empty beds, and so you can actually control the rate at which your population grows by choosing to build more houses or not, and you make this decision based on how stable your economy is. Like, do I have plenty of food? Do I have plenty of water? How is my employment margin? And then you say, you know what, it's time to grow, or you know what, let's just stay where we are. So we need to build 6 lodges to give everyone a bed. And remember how I built, well, the last person grew up and became our inventor, so we're good with 4 builders. And let's go ahead and select housing. It's the central button with the door and a lodge. And we're going to build all these lodges, you guessed it, right here on the irrigated, or the non-irrigated soil. And this will take them a second. While this is happening, by the way, I'm going to just kind of... never mind. I was going to build the warehouses, but I don't want to get them distracted. We don't have enough lumber for it. We have to wait a bit. Here we go. And we got well-being 4. It's our new high score because some of our beavers have access to homes. In fact, only 3 of them are homeless because we have a few beds left and they're just waiting. In the lower left, you'll see there is a log. It tells you when the dates of when the children grew up from and became adults and workers. And then in red, it'll be like, hey, you're missing materials. And you could click on this to see which buildings are missing materials. They're just missing logs. So all we really have to do is wait for our lumberjacks to get the rest of these logs. And if you wanted to, you could build another lumberjack flag and, you know, get more wood coming in. That is completely reasonable. And there they go. You could see our research science points coming in. The houses are starting, the lodges are getting constructed. You can see we have berries and carrots being stored. Water, sort of, you know, making it. And almost done with this last house. And at this point, no one is without a bed. So we have actually 3 free beds, and we're finishing the last lodge. And all we need to do to progress in the tutorial is wait for the next day and finish this final lodge. Now, there's so much work we have yet to do here in Timberborn, but this is a great first episode of our guide. We've covered a ton of content. We have... we finally built houses, we have research, we have warehouses, we have food, gatherers, lumberjacks, and we're going to have to do a guide series for this game because there is so much to explain, but I'm hoping that by doing this in a nice, thorough way, you're going to really learn to play and love Timberborn. If you have any questions about the game, please post those in the comments down below. I'd love to help you out. And if you are a Timberborn expert and you want to give advice to new players or correct any mistakes that I've made, that would be so awesome. I appreciate it so much. Just make sure that you do so in a way that's not spoilery or too in-depth for a new player. I'd appreciate that. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. I'll check you in the next episode. Take care.